Because you have one principle of free market, you have other principle of government coming in to help, and then this can end up encroaching and making things worse, and this can end up leading to high prices that people can't access.
To kind of help simplify things, now hospitals basically have to come up with what they call as pathways. It's like, okay, if someone presents with this disease, we have it spelled out how they're going to be treated, what they're going to be treated with, and this is going to be the cost. And the insurance company will go, okay, if you abide by that pathway, we'll give you this much money. And so that's one way they're trying to help simplify the process to make sure everything is standardized and done the same way with the same cost and the same, that sort of thing. And so, but coming up with the pathway, and each institution having their own pathway, I think is still not the answer. If you're going to do a pathway, it should be, this is one pathway that's going to apply to everybody. And then, the other thing too, is that, insurance companies are not allowed to compete across state lines. So that, if there's somebody in Georgia that has, the insurance is cheaper, and they'll give you, if you can do that and buy that, but we're not allowed to do that. You can only buy within state lines. So that, again, is not really free market principle.
Why can't they operate outside of state lines?
That's a specific rule, I believe, and I think the insurance companies like it that way because they get to then drive up, compete just within the state, not within the nation. And so then they can probably increase costs or increase, what you have to pay for insurance.
The margins,
yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So taking the conversation down to a more human level.
Yep.
If you had to give advice to medical students today, you're in their shoes however many years ago, what would you say? And let's say the doctor profession is going to get worse from the standpoint of more hours, less pay.
Yeah.
Let's just assume it will get worse. Is the calling worth it? What would make it worth it for someone to put in all the sweat?
So after all the blood, sweat, and tears, you get out into the job market and you don't understand billing. You don't understand contracts. People take a job that they sign the contract, maybe they don't read it, they don't have a lawyer look at it, and then it's got all these clauses in there, and basically it's like, oh no, you don't get a bonus, oh no, you're not working out, you're fired, and by the way, you have a non-compete clause, you can't work 50 miles around this area. They don't teach us about contracts. They don't teach about billing. And there's more of that going on in the big society meetings. I was brought up, I remember when I was a senior resident, went to the national meeting, they actually brought this up. It's like, you need to be educated on, when you're going to interview for a job, you need to have a lawyer look at that contract inside and out. You need to know every which way they can fire you, and if the non-compete is enforceable, and how you're going to be reimbursed, and what your responsibilities are. We had one day in residency where they brought in somebody from billing to explain, well, to bill properly, you need this component. They're like, what? What are you talking about? It's like, yeah, it's like you don't get reimbursed if you don't properly document. And so it's like, well, we got to document not just for the medical record, we have to document in a way that allows us to get reimbursed. That's lost in training. So I think what I would say is make sure you understand. The first thing you would do is when you are going to go interview for a job, get a contract lawyer. That's it. You need to get that. You need to be protected that way.
That is a very interesting piece of advice,
yeah,
which I wasn't expecting.
I remember when I didn't do that for Moffitt. I mean, it was a pretty straightforward, and again, I didn't have that knowledge, but I know when I took the job at Florida Hospital, I'm like, okay, it's private practice, I'm going to get a contract lawyer. And I got the contract lawyer, and he looked at the contract, he's like, wow, this is a fantastic contract. This is one of the better contracts I've ever seen. You should see some of the stuff I see from some of these small practices. So he's like, this is a good contract, you should sign it.
I think people who are fresh out of school, they'll sign any contract.
Oh yeah,
because they don't have experience, they have
right.
no negotiation power, and they don't know what's
right
within the business aspect
exactly.
of things.
And in academics, you're probably not going to have as much negotiating power, and they're less likely to pull a fast one on you. it's really in private practice where you might have say, and especially if maybe some of the group is older, some of the guys are retiring, they're going to need you. Then you have to identify what the negotiating power is. But a lot of us just don't understand the business concept. And I wish there was a course on that, and if they could find an online course or just any course on that to take it, it'll be very eye-opening.
Great.
Yeah.
Great advice as a unique angle also. Yeah. So what do you think about the importance of family within maintaining a life, maintaining a career? Starting with your parents, now to your wife and daughter, how has that affected your ability to do what you do, live the life that you live?
I'm very glad that they're a part of what I'm doing. I think they do bring a lot of sanity, especially you have a hard day at work, you have a hard clinic, you're dealing with life and death all the time. You need something to just kind of ground you. And I think having family in that regard, where they basically just distract you from your career life, where you can just kind of focus in on home life, is definitely a must. Now, let's say you're not married or don't have any kids, I would say definitely, find something as a release. Whether if you're going to travel or you're going to play sports or do something, you need something as a distraction.
And to make you a fuller human.
And make you a fuller human, and it makes you more empathetic too. Especially when you have kids and they're going through their growing pains, and it definitely has helped make me a fuller person. So.
Great. And do you love being a doctor?
I do love being a doctor. I love the profession that I chose. I have good days and bad days, but mostly good days. And I love the people I work with. And I think that's key. You have to be in a group where you respect your partners and you also respect the referring doctors, and I have that here.
Great. Well, I'm sure the world really appreciates all the service you've done in these decades, and thanks for coming on the show as well.
Thanks for having me. I hope I was able to provide some useful information.
Definitely. Yeah. And you're able to share your experience, and that's what matters. This is a show about professionalism. It's about humanity. It's about amazing people, and we talked about all of that.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Dr. Shridar.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yep.